Hello, it's 9 p.m. in Art. This time to English New Edition for tonight headlines. So we have the signature of a memorandum of understanding between the State Secretariat for Investment and Private Sector and the Sustainable Development Fund. For the international scene, Joe Biden announces the death of Bin Laden's successor. Welcome to our newsroom. The Secretary of State in charge of investment and private sector's development, Ms. Safiya Mohammed Ali Gadile, and the Director General of the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Djibouti, Dr. Slim Feriani, proceeded this August 2022 in the premises of the State Secretariat to the signature of a memorandum of understanding. The State Secretariat and the Djibouti Fund have decided to join their effort to promote and develop investment in the strategic sector of the Djiboutian economy. The purpose of this sign is to establish the principles of cooperation between the two institutions to attract more foreign direct investment in the private sectors of the Republic of Djibouti. Since its inception, the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Djibouti has been developed in partnership with the key local and international private sector players to invest and contribute their expertise in the priority sectors supported by Vision 2035. The Director General of the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Djibouti, Dr. Feriani, stressed for his part the importance of the private sectors of Djibouti, and a rapid expansion of private investment is a tremendous boom to the economic and social development of Djibouti. Through this partnership with the State Secretariat for Investment and Private Sector Development, the fund will fully play its role as the financial and investment arm of the state of Djibouti. During the interview on the sidelines of the signing ceremony of the Memorandum of Understanding, the Secretary of State, Her Excellency Safiya Mohammed Ali, was pleased to work closely with the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Djibouti and said that the synergy between the two actors involved in the promotions of investment and private sector development will accelerate access to financing for major projects involving private companies, thanks to the mutual effort undertaken by the signatories of this protocol. One of the components of this collaboration will be information sharing, as well as the identification and evaluations of this fund equity investments in projects that are in line with the Vision 2035. This strategic partnership will facilitate the coordination of joint technical assistance activities and the conduct of a project of common interests. The Minister of Trade and Tourism, Mohamed Warsama Diriya, the head of a large delegation, visited the Arab Republic of Egypt. In this context, he met with Ms. Nevin Jami, Minister of Trade and Industry of the State of Egypt, to discuss ways and to develop and expand joint economic and trade relations between the two countries. During the meeting, they reviewed the current global economic development in light of the corona pandemic and the Russian-Ukrainian crisis in the presence of Mr. Ahmed Ali Barri, Ambassador of the Republic of Djibouti, accredited to Egypt, and permanent representative of our country to the League of Arab States in Cairo, Mr. Mohammed Ahmed Mohammed Umar, advisor to the Minister of Trade. On the Egyptian side, Mr. Ibrahim Al-Sijini, the Deputy Minister of Economic Affairs, the Minister of Commercial Plenipotentiary Yahya Al-Wattiq Bil'a, Head of the Commercial Representations, and the Commercial Advisor Yasser Higazi, Head of the Commercial Office of Al-Masri in Djibouti. The Minister of Trade, Mohamed Warsama Diriya, affirmed the willingness of Djibouti to expand the frameworks of joint economic cooperation with the sister Egypt, especially in light of the Russian-Ukrainian crisis and the coronavirus pandemic and its negative impact on the global economy. The military school President Guled of Holhol hosted in the day of Tuesday, August 2, 2022, an end of training ceremony for 121 young recruits holding licenses of different specialties. This ceremony, colorful, was chaired by the Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim. Among the civil authorities took part in this ceremony the Sub-Prefect of Holhol, the civil, customary, and religious representative of the locality of Holhol. In his trip, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim was accompanied by Brigadier General Tahir Ali Muhammad, the Chief of Defense Staff, and senior officials of the Djiboutian Armed Forces to fight against the pandemic of the COVID-19. The barrier gestures such as the compulsory wearing of the mask, the social distancing, and the washing of hands were observed. Indeed, as part of the rise of the Djiboutian Armed Forces and the policy of rejuvenation of its cadres, the Djiboutian Army has conducted at the end of 2021 a recruitment campaign targeted at young technicians. The profiles for this recruitment were pilots and air traffic controllers for the Air Force, electrical engineers, electromechanics, and specialists in general mechanics for the Navy. The targeted diploma are the baccalaureate of the scientific series and license holders. Following the reception of the new ships for the French Navy and new troops transport aircraft for the Air Force, it was necessary to carry out a targeted recruitment. After the submissions of applications, a joint commission was created by the military command to select the best profiles. The population responded massively to the call. Thus, it was necessary to introduce to the young recruit the hard job of soldiers, which requires courage, abnegation, rigorous discipline, and a surpassing of oneself. This apprenticeship goes through the teaching of the discipline specific to the army, as the military school President Guled of Holhol is the nursery of the training of any soldiers. This basic training, commonly called all arms basic training and FITA, takes place within it. This training responds to an urgent need of the armed forces on the new ships and the recently acquired aircraft. It also responds to the instructions of His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, President of the Republic, Head of Government, Supreme Chief of the Armed Forces, wishing to commit himself for the Djiboutian youth. Upon descent from the Dauphin helicopter, the delegation chaired by General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces, was welcomed by Colonel Mohammed Jama Qayat, Commander of the Military School, President Guled of Holhol. Thus, upon arrival, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim proceeded to the picket of honor. Then the Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces greeted all guests, military civilians present at the ceremony through his passage to the projection room. General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim was able to see the knowledge and technical know-how acquired by young recruits through workshop. Thereafter, Colonel Mohammed Jama Qayad, Commander of the Military School, President Guled, presented to General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim a brief presentation on the training and development of trainees in the acquisitions of technical and tactical know-how and military life skills. At the end of the presentation, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, in the company of the Chief of the Staff of the Military School, President Guled, proceeded to the traditional review of the troops at the place of report. This army tech was composed of a section of permanent support staff of the military school with instructors, followed by a detachment of the National Police in retraining. Colonel Mohammed Jama Qayad, the commander of the military school, President Khaled of Holhol, congratulated the trainees for their diligence and self-sacrificing spirit during the training. These trainees of the fairly high intellectual level have taken up the challenges and have demonstrated their ability to invest themselves to serve their country in the best way. The highlight of this beautiful ceremony is no one other than the presentations of the flag to the young trainees. Flanked by its guard, the flag of the military school came out of the ranks to receive the honors and then made a lap of honor before the young recruits.
Est un moment de recueillement envers les couleurs nationales qui décrit une république en parfaite interaction avec sa population. Il accompagne nos fêtes, mais également nos camarades tombés au champ d'honneur. Il est le garant de notre unité nationale. Il symbolise par ses couleurs ce que nous sommes et où nous vivons. Il est celui que nous défendrons. Il est celui que nous aimons. Soldats du contingent 2022, ce drapeau devant vous flottant, dans toute sa splendeur, retrace l'histoire de tout un corps et au-delà de toute une armée et toute une nation. Vous avez l'obligation de le défendre en tout temps, en tout lieu et en toutes circonstances, au prix de votre vie. Chers soldats, ce drapeau est aussi celui de la République qu'il symbolise. Il est toujours porté par un officier, signe de grandeur et de prestige, et encadré par une garde. C'est la République et ses protecteurs dont vous faites partie désormais. Il est constitué de deux bandes horizontales, en haut bleu ciel et en bas verte complétée côté ample d'un triangle isocèle blanc allant jusqu'au centre du drapeau. Au centre du triangle se trouve une étoile rouge à 5 branches. Le bleu représente le ciel, le beau temps. Le vert, la terre, la verdure. Le triangle blanc symbolise la paix. L'étoile symbolise l'unité nationale et le rouge, le sang versé par nos martyrs pour la quête de notre chère indépendance. Ce drapeau devant vous est l'emblème national. Le défier, le profaner, c'est porter atteinte à l'honneur de chaque Djiboutien. Ce drapeau porte en lettres d'or sur l'une de ses toiles fines et brillantes les inscriptions à nous si chères République de Djibouti, école militaire. Sur l'autre face est marquée la devise de notre chère école, ils s'instruisent pour servir. Le drapeau est attaché à une hampe en bois, anobli par une flèche dorée, avec une cravate aux couleurs nationales nouée à son cou. Les motifs et les inscriptions sont en relief brodé avec du félin or pour lui donner encore plus de noblesse.
Thereafter, Captain Hassan Muhammad Hassan, in charge of the training office, took the floor to proclaim the long-awaited results. The best in each discipline were cited and honored with the letter of congratulations for their merit and dedication after months of sacrifices and courage. Then the Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces made a point of congratulating and thanking the staff in charge of the good conduct of the trainees for their assiduity, work, and their relentless personal investment.
Deuxième classe commissionné, Najah Moumin Yabi. Deuxième classe commissionné, Soumeya Mohamed Mahmoud.
On the sidelines of the ceremony, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim paid a vibrant tribute to our valiant soldiers who died to defend the countries. For their memory, the Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces led a wreath at the threshold of the monument dedicated to the martyr. To close this ceremony, the military command invited all the guests to a breakfast around the table in a serene atmosphere and animated by traditional song and dances led by the folklore group of the military school. As a token of appreciation and gratitude, the trainees concocted an animations of poems and traditional songs in Afar and Somali. Afterwards, the trainees offered presents and gifts to the military high command to show their satisfaction. As usual, the ceremony ended with the traditional family photo.
صدق الله العظيم. اللهم وسع مدخلهم وادخلهم الجنة واغسلهم بالثلج والماء والبرد. اللهم نور مرقدهم وعدل مشهدهم وضيم مضجعهم. اللهم نقيهم من خطاياهم كما ينقي الثوب الابيض من الدنس. اللهم عاملهم بما انت اهله ولا تعاملهم بما هم اهلهم. اللهم اجزهم عن الاحسان احسانا وعن الاساءة عفوا وغفرانا. اللهم انزلهم منزلا مباركا وانت خير المنزلين. اللهم انزلهم منازل الصديقين والشهداء والصالحين. واخر دعوانا ان الحمد لله رب العالمين. محمد الفاتح. markay xigtana calankaygani cagaarka iyo cirka buluuga ayna la wadaagee cadaanka nabadiyo casaanka dhiiga haliyadii go'ay dhaxda kaga camiran tahay adaan cadow kaa ilaalshaa cududayda kuu huray calan yahow inaad ciishooto ayaan kaaga dhaargalee weligaaba cirkiyo dabaylaha la cawe. nin ceel qabaa mar buu cududta taagsadaaye ciidankii dalkaanahay carada shabeel baanahay awoodana aar baanahay cafis male nimaan qabtay cidhibtiraha cadowgaanahay caadilkii umiyo diintaan ku dhaartee ciidaydoo hooyaay cadow kuma soo dhaco.
For the international scene, terrorism, Joe Biden announces the death of bin Laden's successor. He was one of the most wanted terrorist leaders on earth. After 10 years on the run, Osama bin Laden's successor was finally spotted in Afghanistan. He was killed this weekend by the U.S. drone. President Joe Biden announces solemnly on Monday. The American president acknowledged Monday evening that he had authorized a new extrajudicial executions in the name of the fight against international terrorism. In the targets of the American agency, the leaders of Al-Qaeda, the Egyptian Ayman al-Zawahiri, successor of bin Laden, also neutralized 10 years ago by the American services. Ayman al-Zawahiri, 71, was killed on Saturday night in an air strike on Kabul, Afghanistan. Justice has been done, and this terrorist leader is no more, said Joe Biden in a short television address. The United States had put a price on the head of the leaders of Al-Qaeda, $25 million for any information is allowing to find him. The emir had taken over the head of the jihadists Nebula in 2011 after the death of Osama bin Laden, killed by an American commando in Pakistan. Untraceable for more than 10 years, he was considered one of the masterminds in September 11 attacks, which killed nearly 3,000 people in U.S. The world is only one miscalculation away from nuclear annihilation. Is humanity on the verge of nuclear annihilation? This was the warning issued by the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres at the opening of a conference on the 191 signatories of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. And this is at the time when Russia is increasingly threatening humanity. Is only one misunderstanding away from nuclear annihilation. He warned awakening a whiff of the Cold War, while the United States and United Kingdom and France called on Russia to put an end to its nuclear rhetoric describing crises that are escalating with nuclear tones from the Middle East to the Korean Peninsula and the invasions of Ukraine by Russia. Antonio Guterres widely expressed his fears of an escalation for his part, and contrary to his last statement, Vladimir Putin was reassuring in a message published on the Kremlin's website. We start from the fact that there can be no winners in a nuclear war and that it should never be unleashed, and we defend equal and indivisible security for all members of the international community. This is it for the news. Thanks for watching us. Have a good evening.